Alright guys, I received a very good question. S21 Ultra versus the S22 Plus. Which one should you get in 2024 here? This is a very good question because of the price. So the price on both of these phones are actually pretty similar. So you can actually find an S22 Plus in the renewed refurbished marketplace for $352, and then the S21 Ultra you can actually find at this cheapest like $342. And yeah, so basically they're around the same price, but which one should you get? So there's definitely some pros and cons of each phone here. So I want to go ahead and tackle the hardware here. So both phones actually look pretty similar, as you guys can see here. They both have that matte finish. They're both IP68 dust and water resistant. They both have that camera cutout. As you can see, the S21 has a bit more cameras. And yeah, they both have that nice feel in the hand where they're not too boxy and they don't cut into the palm, so they're very easy to hold. A big hardware difference here is that the S21 Ultra does have a S Pen support, so you can use the stylus and basically use the S21 like a note phone essentially. So that is also another really cool feature here. But besides that, they both kind of feel the same, and again they look the same. Of course, the S22 Plus is going to be a little bit smaller as well too. But as far as hardware, not too much of a difference besides the S Pen support. Alright, so let's talk about displays here. So the S21 does have the 6.8-inch dynamic AMOLED display. It is a full 1440p display, 515 for the PPI, HDR10 plus, 1500 nits, peak brightness, and it does have a slight curve to it as well too, whereas the S22 Plus is completely flat. Now the S22, it does have a 6.6-inch display, so again slightly smaller, 120 Hz HDR10 plus, but it actually does have a higher max brightness at 1750 nits peak brightness. It is a 1080p display though, and it's 393 for the PPI, and it's a completely flat panel here. I think both screens look really good. It just kind of depends on if you want a bigger screen or a smaller screen. It really comes down to that, I think. And then also, you might really like the flat display on the the S22 as well too. Yeah, so it really depends on your personal preference here. The max brightness on both of these are really good, but the S22 again is technically a little bit brighter. But for the most part, I think it's going to come down to screen size and if you really want the 1440p resolution as well too. So those are things that I would consider when you're making this choice. Let's talk about specs a little bit more. So the S21, it does have up to Android 14 for the latest OS update. It will get Android 15, and then it does have the Snapdragon AAA chip, and then 128 gigs of internal storage and 12 gigs of RAM. The S22 Plus, it does have, again, it's upgradable to Android 14 One UI 6. But this phone will get longer major OS updates as well too, so that's something to consider. Android 15 is the last one for the S21, and then you'll get security patches. This one has quite a few more updates left. And the S22 Plus has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 8 gigs of RAM. On the base model, you can see with the Geekbench scores here. And yeah, so again, not a huge difference, honestly. It's just one generation upgrade. So for the most part, you shouldn't expect to really see any type of speed difference. I do think that the 8 Gen 1 definitely is slightly cooler, a little bit, not by much, but it is a little bit cooler. But when it comes to overall performance and stuff like that, the S22 Plus is going to be slightly ahead, but it's not going to be anything, anything major that I think anybody will really notice. So both phones are really fast. So when you're deciding, when it comes to speed, I wouldn't necessarily, worry about that because both phones are, super fast. Animations and everything still feel pretty much on par with each other. Let's go ahead and launch PUBG. And let's see if we can get it. Boom. And it looks like the S21 actually jumped out ahead there. Yeah, the S21 actually kind of jumped out ahead and beat it there a little bit. But again, like I said, this is all minor stuff. And also when it comes to gaming performance, like I said, they are extremely similar. You can play games at pretty much the same exact settings. The S22 Plus might be a little bit cooler for long-term gaming, but besides that, you're not going to really notice a difference in terms of performance. Besides, again, the screen might be a little bit high res on the S21. But yeah, so again, performance-wise, it really does not matter in this comparison, since both phones are really fast still. And just to show you guys, I'm verifying 90 frames. So yeah. Alright, so let's check out these speakers at max volume. Alright, so it's pretty noticeable, but the S22, S21 Ultra is definitely louder and has the better speaker than the S22 Plus. It actually kind of makes it sound a little flat in comparison. It's not bad, but this one is way louder. Yeah, just way more bass, just a fuller sound here. So definitely a better speaker on the S21 Ultra for sure. The fingerprint scanners are essentially the same. They're both the ultrasonic. No issues there. And then you still have the same, you know, toggles and stuff like that. This one hasn't been updated to One UI 6 yet. But again, essentially all the same features and stuff like that. So again, software-wise, no difference. But as far as the cameras, there is quite a bit of a difference here. So the S21 has a 108 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel telephoto with 3 times optical, then it has another 10 megapixel telephoto with 10 times optical, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide that shoots in 8K24, then a 40 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60, and of course with the S21 you do have the 100 times space zoom. So yeah, so the S22 Plus, it doesn't have, you know, as many cameras, but the camera setup is still pretty good. It's a 50 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel telephoto, 3 times optical, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It also shoots in 8K24 and has a 10 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. This one goes up to 30 times. But again, basically the zoom shots are going to be better, especially when you get to like 10 times, 30 times. You'll notice the S21 Ultra will have a significant difference in terms of clarity. But check out these side-by-side stills. Let me know what you guys think. Alright, so lastly, let's talk about battery life. So I would give it to the S22. I think it has better battery life. It could be because the chipset is a little bit more efficient and it's only running in 1080p. and the screen is smaller and blah blah blah. But definitely better battery life in my opinion. Even if both these phones were new, you're still gonna get better battery life on the S22 Plus. I noticed it has a little bit of a smaller battery at 4,500 milliamps. It has 45-watt charging, and then it has the wireless and reverse wireless charging as well too. The S21 actually has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, but this has slower charging at 25 watts, and it also does have the wireless and reverse wireless charging. So, you know, I think the S22, the battery situation is just better. To me, it charges noticeably faster with the 45 watts. And then also, I think standby time and stuff like that, it just lasts longer on the S22 Plus. But battery life is still pretty decent on the S21 Ultra. If you guys want to see how that works out, check out my day in the life video I did on it. And yeah, so I think these are two really good phones. It really comes down to personal preference here. If you take a lot of pictures and you feel like you're going to get a lot of zoom shots, the S21 is really good. Also, the screen is just really nice on here. I do like the curve. And the S22 Plus is still really nice. Really good cameras. It's got a completely flat display. And then also you will get longer, you know, software updates as well too. The chipset is a little bit more powerful, even though it doesn't really matter. So it's kind of a tricky pick here, for sure, since they're both around the same price. But I would say if you really care about software and you're not going to take a lot of zoom shots and stuff like that, go with the S22 Plus. If you want a bigger phone and you don't really care about having updates, latest updates and all that stuff for a long time, and you take a lot of zoom shots as well too, go with the S21 Ultra. It's a really good phone. And also, of course, you want a bigger phone and stuff like that. So, and also don't forget pen support as well too. So, you know, there's pros and cons here for sure, but be sure to let me know what you guys think. Which phone would you guys get and why? And I'll catch you guys in the next one.